Hey everyone, welcome back to Hypnovision Studios. You will not find this information anywhere else on YouTube. I can promise you that. This is another edition of Semen Retention and things that have been hidden in plain sight for the ages being revealed. Now, I have done quite a few videos on this series, and I will put a card in the description so you can find the playlist. And I'll also put a link in the comments for everyone who's interested. This is going to circle back around to the very first one of my playlist. Today, I'm going to talk about the imagination itself, the Christ and the Christos, and a deeper revelation that I recently had. Now, I myself have been on a 3-year journey with this practice itself. Brahmacharya, prana, meditation, journaling, and really sitting still and understanding in silence things that cannot be put into words. So what I'm about to share with you guys is something that is deeply, deeply enlightening for me. And I want you all to know that it really revolves around the imagination itself. Now, I am a big fan of Neville Goddard's work. Specifically, one of my favorite books is The Awakened Imagination. And this is what I'm getting ready to share with all of you out there. If you have any knowledge of how semen retention and celibacy works as far as the reproductive system and the cycle in the human body, specifically we were talking about men here, the 29.5 day cycle of the seed. What is a star seed? What does that even mean? Well, on surface, when you first hear some of this stuff, it may sound a little bit cuckoo. But we are actually talking about metaphysical things and spiritual things. And of course, just like the imagination is an unseen force, so are these things, which requires you to slow down, allow yourself to see the mental pictures, and understand a deeper symbolic meaning behind all of this stuff. I'm going off top of my head, guys. This is nothing pre-written for me today. So bear with me as we start to dive into exactly what the big secret really is. I'm going to read something to you from Neville Goddard's book, The Awakened Imagination. This is page 23, and I'm going to show you exactly how all this ties into the imagination, the Christ within, which is the Christ conscious, and imagination, semen retention, and how it can give you a better life for yourself. When imagination is discovered as the first principle of religion, the stone of literal understanding will have felt the rod of Moses, and like the rock of Zen, issue forth the water of psychological meaning to quench the thirst of humanity, and all who take the preferred cup and live a life according to truth. Guys, for the long-time watchers know that when I start speaking things that are really truthful and things that I personally have an inner knowing about, I start to radiate with chills. And this is no different in this moment. I want to break down this passage, and I really want to show you exactly what is happening here, because whether you believe this or not, whether other people accept it or not, we are all by definition and default Christian. Christ within. This has nothing to do with religion. And once you understand what religion even means in the first place, to realign your allegiance. This is a military concept. This came out of Rome. Rome had legions and legions of armies. Religion. They say that Rome never truly fell. It became the Catholic Church. So controlling religion, controlling the people, controlling spirituality of man. So religion in its broader terms, in its mass terms, right? The mainstream narrative of religion seeks to control the spirit of man and woman. And they do this by means of using God as a weapon. So let's break this down even further. When imagination is discovered as the first principle of religion, the stone of literal understanding have felt the rod of Moses. The rod of Moses, guys, I want to share something with you right here. This is a cadeus. I wear this on my neck, and there's also a key. The key to the universe. The key also has a heart on it. But the cadeus itself is known throughout many ages, and it has many different meanings to it. But something that most people don't even see. The rod is the spine of man, the spinal cord that runs up and down that helps man stand strong and stand upright. The rod of Moses thrown down to give man strength to stand. The stones, the pineal gland, those crystals are like stone-like structures in the pineal gland. The pineal gland is often referred to as the seat of God or the seat of consciousness. So we have something to start with here, guys. In my previous videos, I talked about the Christos, which travels up and down that spinal cord on a 29.5 day cycle. Now, after that cycle, once it goes back up into the brain, it reaches the pituitary and the pineal gland. I recently done a whole dedicated video to the emotions and the cycles within the body, the circadian rhythm, and how the sun and the moon really affect the chemical makeup in the body. So once we start to gain this understanding and just how valuable that starseed of life force truly is, man will not waste it. He will not seek women out of lust. He will not try to be a ladies' man. In fact, he will start to understand the true value that he holds within his body. He has the ability to create life. Now, who else can do that but God? Create life from nothing. If man is created in the image of God, and man is given imagination, and he also has life-giving force that can create another life, then the only thing man is doing is passing down his consciousness and downloading it into the womb of a woman. And after 9 months, a new life is born. The cycle continues. So guys, the psychological understanding here is, where does conscious even come from? The pineal gland is physioelectric. I've talked about this a lot on my channel. Also, the structure, the bones of the human body are the same. They are able to retain and contain energy within the human bones. So there is a store, an energy store within the human body. So once we start to understand what does Neville mean by the principle of religion starts to melt away. This really makes a lot of sense, because he says that most men, the irrational to man, it is only because it is misread as biography, history, and cosmology. And the modern explorers of imagination do not help by calling the unconscious or subconscious mind. Imagination's birth and growth is the gradual transition from a god of tradition, which is religion, to a god of experience. Wow, I just felt a shockwave of energy flow through my body. A god of experience. The imagination cannot be limited. It cannot be put in a box. It cannot be, the flame of imagination cannot be put out. So your imagination is, according to Neville, Christ. It is the manifestation through imagination of the image of God, the manifestation of man. You, me, another man over here, the physical manifestation of man through imagination is how we have propelled ourselves forward for many, many generations. While we cling to our traditions and the ways that things have been, we lose sight of the imagination in the present moment. Think about this for a second, guys. Close your eyes for just a minute. You can imagine any place, any dimension, any time that you can conceive within your imagination. And while your body is physically sitting in one location, by imagination, you can time travel to another place, another time, another location on this earth. Now, if that is not the truest meaning of magic, I don't know what is. That is unseen forces at play. I also want to share something else with you. Magnetism. There is a very unbreakable chain here because you cannot create or destroy magnetism. You can only witness it, as Neville says in his books. I will also leave a link in the descriptions for this audiobook because it is one of my favorites and I often listen to it. The awakened imagination is truly something that will change your life. And I stand firmly on this, guys. Something else I would like to share with you as I'm looking through some of this. The mystery hid from the ages, Christ in you, the hope of glory, is your imagination. This is the mystery which I am ever striving to realize more keenly myself and urge upon others. Even Neville Goddard was always in this self-discovery of self-remembering the imagination. Imagination is our Redeemer, the Lord from heaven, man born, not the begotten man. Even man is Mary, and birth to Christ he must give. What does that mean? Even man is Mary? Mary Magdalene. When we think about the last name, Magdalene, what does that have in common with imagination? Magdalene, M-A-G. Imagination, Magi, M-A-G. Magnetism, M-A-G. Magnesium, M-A-G. Now on surface, these things seem unrelated. But when you start to look in the old world, the ancient cathedrals, the ancient temples, and you see those big, beautiful, round, stained glasses, the designs, they look just like DNA. When you look down DNA from the top side, it's like a kaleidoscope and it's twisting, and there is an ever-changing, visible picture that can be seen. When we turn it sideways, we can see the spiral effect. So there is something much deeper beyond what is seen on the surface that is going on here. And this, my friends, is the psychology of everything. This is not the body. This is what is not seen from the outside that is going on internally in the human mind. The old world, the old hymns, there was no words. It was only sound and resonant frequency. The old world had far more greater technology than we do today. So in essence, man has gone backwards and lost his way by clinging to the traditions and passing those traditions down, generation after generation after generation. Eventually, wars have broke out all across this world, and every single one of these wars has some kind of religious undertone. People fighting for the chosen lands. People fighting for these different belief systems. People fighting for what? Things made of imagination. Pretend. What does it mean to pretend? What does it mean to be in pre-attendance? An imagination ahead of an event. Guys, when we start to reserve this sexual sacred energy within our bodies, and we start to allow it to cycle back through our nervous system, this is known as regeneration. It is also known as reincarnation. And I will tell you something else. You have 12 cranial nerves. There's also 12 disciples. There are 12 zodiac signs. We have 12 months. Now, here's something very interesting. The old calendars show 13 months. Why is there a missing month? And when you understand the etymology of words themselves, month, moon, it is closely associated with the moon cycle. You see, the knowledge never truly was lost. In fact, it was gatekept. The people who have been able to keep the knowledge intact have done so at great risk of never wanting it to get out to the mass public. Why? Because when we don't understand our sexual energy, our reproductive energy, it stunts us mentally and emotionally. And now the moon is often tied to the feminine aspect of things. It is also tied to the moon cycles, menstrual cycles. Every month, a woman has a cycle. Every month, the blood is being washed out, right? So for men, every 29.5 days, when that chrism, that Christos oil, the anointed oil, travels back up the spinal cord and reaches the pituitary gland, and it reaches the pineal gland, there is a 3-day period where it sits dormant. But there is also an electrification process. This is the biochemistry of between the pituitary gland and the pineal gland. Where does new blood come from? Is it generated from plasma? If the pineal gland is vibrating and those little crystals are creating energy, when that fluid comes up and it makes contact, just like conception within a woman, there is a burst of light, illumination of the mental capacity of man, Christ being born within man. So the mainstream story of Jesus dying for your sins is a mainstream story passed down from generations. The story of the 3 Magi following the North Star. And this is astrology, guys. On the winter solstice, the sun passes over the southern hemisphere, and it is at its lowest point for 3 days. Now, the story goes that Jesus lied in the tomb for 3 days before he rose again. The sun sits at its lowest angle for 3 days before it crosses the southern hemisphere. I cannot make this stuff up, guys. You will not find this on other channels, but you can find this information in books, and you can find this information online. Now, you have to source a lot of this information and start to pull it together to really see the bigger overarching picture of all of this. What is the Ark of the Covenant? We have the left and the right hemispheres in the mind, and the pineal gland is sitting right in the center. All of this is happening at the cross point. Even the CIA, the Gateway Project, or the Monroe Project as it's known, they have documented much of this information. So when it comes to religion and when it comes to belief, there is a difference in believing and knowing. An inner knowing is something that you have this deep-seated, unexplainable knowing about something. It is hard for you to put into words, but you know something to be true. I know the sunlight is real, and I know that anytime I go out in the sunlight, I feel better. I used to get seasonal depression during the wintertime because it's so cold and the daylight hours are very short. So we are often inside. We are pretty much hibernating in some kind of way. But during the summer months, when the days are longer, we spend more time in sunlight. We also get vitamin D. There are other benefits from being in the sun. The pineal gland is also highly reactive to sunlight. I even talked about photosynthesis in other videos, how the sunlight reaching through the skull of the human mind and illuminating that pineal gland. Where do you think the energy is being created and stored? How do you think the circadian rhythm of the pituitary gland is a master clock for the human body? It sets our wake and sleep cycles. It also sets the cycles for when our DNA starts to change things like the color of our facial hair. As we age, our body knows when to initiate certain changes within the body. These are not things that you can consciously choose for yourself. These are things that are written into our DNA. God wrote and put things inside of your body that no man can take from you. These are your unalienable, God-given rights. The right to choose for yourself. The right to understand for yourself, the right to know for yourself. So I find it very fascinating, guys. So I've done a lot of these videos already. I think this is probably going to be like the 9th video that I've done on this topic. I've done everything from imagination, like strictly imagination, to how the system itself is working. I've done the aspect of the chemicals, hormonal aspect of things. That's another one, right? Hormones, eye of horse. We go all the way back to Egypt for this one. The eye of horse and the eye of Ra. The what do you call it? The Fibonacci sequence. That's another one, guys. Everything is in plain sight, but it's not until you awaken to seeing with your own eyes that you actually start to see this stuff. So here's another section. This is page 24 from Awakened Imagination. The Son of God is not to be found in history nor in any external form. He can only be found as the imagination of him in who his presence becomes manifest. Wow, I am feeling electric right now, guys. Man is the Garden of Eden. Man is the garden in which this only begotten Son of God sleeps. He awakens this Son by lifting his imagination up to heaven and clothing men in godlike stature. We must go on imagining better than the best we know. Man, in the moment of his awakening to the imaginative life, must meet the test of sonship. Father, reveal thy Son in me. And it pleased God to reveal his Son in me. The supreme test of sonship is the forgiveness of sin. The test of your imagination is Christ Jesus, the Son of God, is your ability to forgive sin. Sin means missing one's mark in life, falling short of one's ideal, failing to achieve one's aim. Forgiveness means identification of Jesus Christ. So guys, this is another one. Sin, sine wave. When we look at DNA and we look at the pattern of DNA, when we look at the way sound can be measured in sine waves, just like electricity, the sine wave, right? When something is in a harmonious match, it amplifies. And when two sine waves or two waves are opposing, they become destructive to each other. They try to cancel each other out. So sin is missing the mark. And I actually, the more I have sat with this myself, the more it makes complete sense to me. Sin is not about what you did 20 years ago. It's not about what you did 3 hours ago. It is about missing the mark and then holding on and attaching oneself to it and trying to hold that moment in time as if it is the foundation of the present moment. Oh God, I shouldn't have done that. My life is ruined now. And then from that point forward, we hold on to that anchor point and will not let go of it. We start to attach ourselves to a past moment, creating tension within the body. We also start to bog ourselves down by holding on to things that have already passed because we missed the mark. Every day is a new day. Every day is a chance to fix what we missed the mark on the day before. Every day is a chance to rise, not have a good morning. We mourn at wakes. That is why we have weekends, right? Because it is the end of the week and we say good morning to people instead of grand rising. Just like the sun appears to rise above us every single day and then fall in the evenings. So much symbology has been hidden in plain sight from all of us, including myself. There was a time that I did not know this knowledge. There was a time where I could not ever conceive myself being in front of a camera and a mic just like I am right now. There was no way in hell I would ever speak openly about some of these topics. I've honestly, throughout this channel, have talked about things from porn to the addictions of the pornographic industry itself, to understanding how the human condition, the human psyche works. And I am not afraid to talk about any topic with you guys. And I do hope that you drop comments and let me know what you think, because honestly, think about it. The Christos, which is that anointed fluid, right? When we watch theater and we see the anointed oil, right, it's usually olive oil. But it is an internal thing. The washing of the blood is that 29.5 day cycle when that seed goes back up and that spark happens and plasma creates new blood. This is regeneration. This is reincarnation of those 12 cranial nerves, regenerating, healing the body. Why do you think they made the forbidden fruit such a evil thing? Why do you think that they try so hard to make you live in fear of knowing the truth? Because fear is something that is a very potent way to control humans, especially when it comes to emotions. Emotions is the energy that animates the body, and you cannot blackmail emotionally an emotional, intelligent person. You just can't do it. Psychologically, they will see it coming. Now, I've talked about this before, about being a psychic, or either being able to spot the patterns in other people and also within yourself. Now, it may sound like that is devil worship, right? Well, what does it mean to deveil something? To lift the veil? What does that even mean, devil? A red man with a pitchfork is going to poke me to death and burn in hell? Guys, I got news for you. The sunlight is beaming through these French doors over here. And if you understand that the images on the back of your retina are upside down, and if you go and look at the sun, then you understand the picture that is hitting the back of your eye is upside down. By that very definition, if I were to look up in the sky and it's nice and blue like an ocean, and there is a bright, shining, orange, yellowish orb in the sky that produces heat that I can feel on my body, how easy would it be to mislead someone and tell them that there is a lake of fire that they are going to burn in? I reckon if you stay out in the sun too long, you could burn in that lake of fire. There's also what we call the firmament, right? God created the heavens and the earth, and he separated the waters from the waters. I got news for everyone out there. That little black hole surrounded by color and then surrounded by whiteness looks an awful lot like those ancient maps of the flat earth. And there is a dome that separates the 70 to 80% of water that is contained within your body from the outside atmosphere. The water vapor, you can't see it in the air, but you know it's there because you can, by humidity, give a percentage rating of how saturated the atmosphere is with water. So the water is being separated by the water. And the eyeballs are sucking in the light from the outside world, and through that process, turning light into matter and then converting it into electrical impulses, ultimately into your imagination, creating mental pictures. This is the Christ conscious. And I don't care if anybody comes along and tells you that the Christ conscious isn't real, because the truth of the matter is, like the old saying goes, if you think you can, you will. If you think that you cannot, then you absolutely are also right. So believing and knowing are two different things, but they also really, really have a lot to do with the actual individual's self-belief and perception of reality around them. Reality, the understanding of the system of things, the matrix that we live in. I often think and wonder to myself, you see so many cliches about the matrix, break free of the matrix, break free of the matrix. That movie is filled with metaphors and symbology. Neo, the one, neocortex of the mind, breaking free from the patterns of the limited thinking, right? We have taken in so much from the outside world, so many beliefs that we think that is accurate of the outside world. But the imagination, until it has been awakened from the inside out, can only accept what man tells it is real to him. As you believe, so you become. What you think you are, you will most definitely be. This is something that until you start to self-reflect, you will never see for yourself until you do so. Until you learn to sit still in silence. Until you learn to allow yourself to stay in a 29.5 day cycle and complete that cycle. The circadian rhythm, the understanding that is bestowed upon man internally, the kingdom within, right? Look at it like this, guys. When I say everyone is a Christian, no matter what you believe, no matter what you think, if you don't believe in religion or you do believe in religion, if you believe in spirituality or you don't believe in spirituality, one thing is for sure, we are all Christian. And that doesn't mean you have to fit the narrative of the outside world or what Christianity even means. Because the Christos, the Christ, the understanding that everything is internally. So Christ is within us. The kingdom is within us. Christian, Christ within. The Christ consciousness is real. And I'll tell you something else. It is very hard to enter into the Christ consciousness if you are still holding a guilty conscience. This is all about forgiveness, right? It's not about forgiving people out there. It is forgiving yourself for holding on to these things. The traditions, the ways of the outside world. Sure, there are things out there that can hurt us. Other people can hurt us, right? And we can try to forgive those people out there. If we are still holding on to it internally, guess who pays that price? The individual person does. Not the person that hurt you, because they are off living their life. You, the one that is holding on to that hurt still, is the one that is paying the price for carrying that baggage. And your body pays the price. Your mind will pay the price. Your emotions will pay the price. Think about it like this. If you look at energy and you look at emotion, right? And you just start saying, I'm going to label emotion as energy. Is there a net positive or a net negative in my emotions? Meaning, do I feel depressed? Do I feel diminished emotionally? Do I feel zapped? Do I feel like I have the motivation to carry out the actions that I wish to desire in my life? If the answer is no, I don't feel like I have the energy, that is emotional debt. And the only way to get out of that emotional bankruptcy is to get to zero, to get to neutral, to get to the present moment. The past, the present, and the future, it all exists at the same time. It's just a matter of where you are emotionally and mentally and spiritually. It really changes your perception of life. So to get to that zero, get it? 0 point energy. Why? Everything up here is electrical impulses. It is a form of energy. So we talk about alien spacecraft, right? 0 point energy, free energy, right? It's right up under your nose, guys. Electrical impulses of the mind. Free that energy. Let it go. Let it flow. And you will start to see what I'm talking about. 0 point energy. Let go of the past. Stop worrying about the future. Bring yourself into the present moment. I said this in a recent video. 0 is a portal between -1, +1. Get it? So 1 is subtracting, 1 is adding. And if we come to 0, we can see through the portal negative or positive. And the loop of the energy flowing through the nervous system. Symbolically, the 2 snakes. Most of religion will say things like you need to crush the head of the snake. The serpent represents evil. But I got news for you guys. The tongue. The tongue has the power to tear people's lives down. It also has the power to build people's lives up. So the tongue is what can betray each and every one of us. When we get into the emotion of anger, we get into the emotion of these lower vibrations, and then we start to speak from those places. We start to create the tone, the vibration, and it changes the molecules in the air as it comes out. Have you ever literally felt the presence of someone when they walk in a room before you even see them? They say that your energy introduces yourself before you walk in the room. So yes, guys, there is a lot of truth to this. The tongue, right? Between the 2 hemispheres. The forbidden fruit. What is hanging between every man's legs? Fruit. From the tree of life. The forbidden fruit. Well, I must say that if you grow up and you're never taught this information, you're never taught how to apply this knowledge, and at a young age you start to masturbate and you start to leak out your life force at a very young age, and you never stop that pattern, you could go all the way through life emotionally, mentally stunted and never even know that the forbidden fruit was not about eating something off of a tree. It was not about the knowledge. It was about the energy, the sexual energy of life, the reproductive energy of life that nourishes the mind. Why would they tell you not to eat the forbidden fruit of good and evil, of knowledge of right and wrong, unless it was to control you through your emotions? Unless it was to have some kind of control over the spirit of man. Makes a lot of sense, guys. Why do they call it the holy water, right? We see images of Jesus walking on water, symbolically to put the mind over emotion, to calm your own emotional storms, your inner conflict within your own body, right? What happens when we get tensed up, when we start thinking about something and we get anxiety, or we start thinking about something and we get angry? We start to build up this energy. We start to build pressure. And remember, 70 to 80% of the body is water. Remember that there is tension, right? We speak of past tense. We speak in present tense. But do we ever speak in the presence of the here and now? When we be still and know that I am God, we become present in the moment. And when we understand the I am within our self-talk, we can begin to speak worlds into existence from imagination. I can't make this stuff up, guys. I am just someone who just happened to be so lucky to be blessed enough to find the courage to speak this out, to see the connections that others have missed. It is definitely out there. I'm not the only one who sees this. I'm not the only one who knows this. But I can promise you that there are people who know it and intentionally keep it hidden. That's not me. I was raised to be a truth teller. And I was also raised in environments where even telling the truth meant that you could get in trouble. So yes, that's the duality of life right there. People demand honesty, but they are not willing to give it, but expect you to be the one to be honest. Unless that same honesty makes them look bad, then they want you to sit down and shut your mouth. That is real talk, guys. On this channel, I'm not going to sugarcoat stuff for you. I will tell you how it is, but I'll also tell you that anything is possible. There is a difference in fake positivity, right? Ignoring, avoiding, pretending that things don't exist, and going on about my life, versus being an optimist. Yes, I understand that some days are not going to be my best day, but I do believe the future is bright. That is what being an optimist really is. It's not fake. Every day is not going to be the same. Some days you will miss the mark. And if Neville calls that sin, then I'm totally okay with it. It does not mean that you are condemned to go to hell. It does not mean that you were born unworthy. The very fact that you are here, the very fact that you are hearing the sound of my voice means you are worthy. You are more than worthy. You have imagination. You have consciousness, and you have the right to choose for yourself. And that makes you chosen. I can't make it up, guys. So this, for all of you out there, imagination is truly everything. I'm going to read something else, and then I'm going to close this video out. Let the weak man say, I am strong. Reasonably, this is impossible. Only awakened imagination can enter in and partake of the nature of its opposite. Wow. This conception of Christ Jesus as human imagination raises fundamental questions. Is imagination a power significant, not merely to enable me to assume that I am strong, but is it also of itself capable of executing the idea? Suppose that I desire to be in some other place or situation. Could I, by imagining myself into a state and place, bring about their physical realization? Suppose I could not afford the journey, and suppose my present social and financial status oppose the idea I want to realize. Would imagination be sufficient enough to incarnate these desires? Does imagination comprehend reason? By reason, I mean deductions from the observations of the senses. He's speaking of the five sensory input. Does it recognize the external world of facts in the practical way of everyday life? Is imagination a complete guide to behavior? Suppose I am capable of acting with continuous imagination. That is, suppose I am capable of sustaining the feeling of my wish fulfilled. Ooh, the wish fulfilled. Now, I've talked about this before, guys, and I will close the video on this. What does the wish fulfilled mean? What does your personal definition of heaven on earth mean? If you understand that the mind is electric, right? Those electrical impulses are always firing. And our feelings are likened to the feminine aspect of things. We understand the magnetism. This is why in the beginning I was reading and it said man is Mary until he awakens the Christ within. Mary, Mother Gaia. When we witness electricity in the outside world, a storm comes upon us and lightning comes flashing out of the sky, hits the ground. Lightning comes out of the sky, hits the ground. The soul of man, the soul of earth. Mary, Magdalene, Magi, magnetism, Magdalene. 12 cranial nerves, 12 disciples, 12 zodiac signs, the messing month, and guess what, guys? The messing you, right? If you look at the 12 zodiac signs and then you add yourself as the 13th, 1 plus 3 is 4, and that equals the heart chakra. And get this, the word earth, if you take the H at the end and put it to the front, it spells heart. And also the symbolism of it all, right? The heart chakra and the six-sided star. The country with the six-sided star. It's all in plain sight for everyone to see. So when we understand that the electrical impulses are like signals being sent down from above to below, as within, we see everything without in the outside world. So we send the signal from above. Whatever we are thinking at the moment, we are getting the feedback in our feelings. What we feel is the description. What we think is the prescription, unless we are thinking about the past. Then we start to drag our emotions into a negative flow in reverse. It takes a little while for this to really sink in. Some of you may pick up on this as I'm talking. Some of you, it may hit you in bits and pieces later on, because that's how it's been for me over the past 3 years. It's like I have these different pieces, and then all of a sudden, one day, something is said, something is done, and it's like, aha, that makes a lot of sense. I am so happy and grateful to feel the emotions of gratitude, the emotions of happiness, of joy, of peace, being fulfilled within me. F-I-L-L or F-E-E-L. Feel or feel. Two different spellings, but the sound pronunciation is the same. What is electrical impulses made of? Energy. It cannot be destroyed. It can only transform. So you can transform your emotional states of being from that of depression, sadness, hopelessness, into something else, into the opposite. Happiness, love, joy, peace, fulfillment. And you do this by becoming present. You do this by spending time allowing that life-giving force to circulate through your body without expelling it. Because what happens is when we do it too frequently, right? Have you ever heard the word frequency shift? Get on my frequency. If you're going to bring energy, you better bring that big energy, right? Match my energy. I don't want to match your energy. I want to create my own. So, what I'm trying to say to you guys is the frequency, or how frequent you are releasing your life-giving force and expelling it into the outside world without any meaningful purpose. So, understanding that life-giving fluid is going to make the difference in destiny for you as an individual person. I am very happy and grateful, guys. I don't care what anybody thinks. If they come across this video and they're very childish and they laugh and they say, oh, he's full of shit, guess what? That's them, not me. And that's the same kind of attitude you need to have for yourself when it comes to this topic, when it comes to understanding the emotions of the human body, when it comes to understand the direction and flow of how a man thinks and how he feels in his body. Those are three different aspects. The Trinity, the three Magi seeking the North Star, Christ within, the Christian of man, anointed and regenerated by the life-giving force within. And with that, guys, I will see you on the next one.